Hey everyone, my name is Jared, and I wanted to start this off by, of course, giving out my testimony as to what's going on currently in the world with AI. This all starts back when I was younger. Right before I turned the age of 25, I had, of course, been homeschooled my whole life up until high school. Went into high school and got into basically pre-AP, advanced placement classes. Um, Basically, having gone through school from homeschool and going into public school, it's extremely weird from going to one way of learning is that God creates everything and He's the reason this comes about. And that comes about to God, who are you talking about? So it's very night and day for me to be able to notice the fact that we ignore God in most of our teaching. 100%. We don't mention Him in most of what we teach. It's just not there. And how does this relate to God? Never part of any phraseology of any scientist at the end of their sentence. And it would do God a lot of praise to just say, how does this relate to God? What do you think this relates to God in that way? Because God is the master of all things. So we need to go back to this, and we need to come to Jesus. And Jesus asked everyone to reveal themselves at the correct time. Not that you aren't supposed to be telling people about coming to Christ and all this. Testimony is not always supposed to be given right when you get it. It just doesn't always work. And I'm being told it's my time to come out with what happened with me. After I was homeschooled, of course, I struggled with being able to find a place to live after getting out of high school. I struggled with it so much to the point that I had nowhere to be. For over 6 years, I lived in my car. And when I say I lived in my car, it wasn't like, oh, I couldn't have it. So I never had anywhere to sleep but my car, pretty much every night, for years. It's not like I had anyone to sleep with me or be with me. Not something I had. So for during this long period of time, I still remained very faithful. It's not like I ever bowed down to some kind of evil and said, hey, I got to go start doing evil actions. And in fact, that's what continually held me back. I was unwilling to mistreat people to get ahead in my job position. And most people in a position of power at a job, they want to see that you don't care about mistreating people or ruining their lives or putting a bad image on them. To me, that's bearing false witness. I'm unwilling to do it. Um, what it ended up happening is, of course, I'm constantly telling people, no, you gotta, this is wrong, don't do that, you just gotta be blissful, you gotta be kind of like bringing people peace. You know, Jesus talks about this. You can't be aggressively trying to get people to believe in God and saying, look at me, believe what I say, but don't read the Bible yourself. And I kept telling people that, and I was like, wait a minute, I've actually never read the entire Bible myself. I've then read the Bible in many portions, probably all books in random orders, but I had never really sat there and began to read the Bible the order that it's put in, book by book. And so I committed myself to doing that. And it's one of the first things I ever did that I was like, well, I know I'm saying I'm about Jesus, I'm talking about all this good stuff, but like I have no reference material. I know. I just know. It's cool. Yeah, you can know all you want, but then you have to study what you already know. So during this time, I had read a lot of the Bible, gone through a bunch of it, and at the point I had gotten to in the Bible, I realized, John baptized Jesus. And I said, so there's something there. So, like, being baptized, even Jesus was baptized. This seems to be highly important, although never discussed, as to why, we get baptized in the first place. So I was said, okay, I need to go get baptized. And kind of the message I was getting from God was like, not just like this Holy Spirit in the presence of some guy came close to you, felt it. I need you to go through the dousing of water in front of people for me. I was like, eh. And even when I went to the church, they're like, this isn't like a common thing. I was like, I know. I know. I've felt the presence. He told me to do this. I'm just doing it. Right? So I had gotten basically at the age of 25 baptized. I chose to be baptized and had gone through the process of baptism. And it was really odd because the whole time I was like, this is hard. A lot of this is hard. I see a lot of what this is a little difficult for me. I see a lot of this. And after I got baptized, the message I got is like, here comes the hard stuff. Okay? So for me, it was very revealing where it was like, but that stuff I've already had wasn't very hard. He said, no, now you will be challenged, because that's how it works. Once you fully accepted Jesus, it's like you're like this tuning beacon to every evil entity. Like, he's got God, ruin it, destroy God in this man now, and you start pulling those people to you. You don't have a choice. And it really hadn't happened so much before then. It was just like I was a good guy. Some people kind of screwed me over. I never realized that by being a good person, you draw negativity to you. You draw negative people to you, because your job is to help heal them. It's your job as a Christian. That's your job, is what God calls you to do. And so that's why now I'm giving my testimony as to this AI. Back when I had gotten baptized, what ended up happening was I was kind of being led through all of this, and you got to find God, you got to read the Bible, and now that you've been baptized, you're going to become part of the story. Here it goes. You decided. Here you go. You're going to become part of this story. Like, okay. So after I had been baptized, not long after that, I got to work at a place called Bonefish Grill, and I had met this guy named David. And David was religious, not in the way of like exactly being Christian, but more of a cabal. He was a Kabbalist. And what ended up happening, he was like, yeah, man, you're into all this weird stuff. You seem to have this like heightened knowledge of like half the stuff that goes on, even though you don't know how you got most of that knowledge. You can't really ascertain how you figured it all out. It was just kind of given to you, which is kind of what happened. It's not like I sat here studying everything. It's just like over time was able to retain a lot of knowledge. He's like, you need to watch this thing about creepypastas. It was a thing on YouTube back in like 2010, 2011. And the creepypastas had a lot of different effects to it. The more notable ones was like there was a couple episodes of like Bart Simpson and Ed, Ed and Eddie where like Bart Simpson had ended up taking his own life, and ended out trying to point out that, you know, in ending his own life, the episode gets kind of like fuzzy and faded with a lot of background noise on the episode, like black and white, like a videotape VHS that's kind of going in and out. And Bart had killed himself, so the whole family's crying, and there's background music, but there's no words. So it's just a bunch of like visualized images you get in your head of like, oh, Bart's gone, he killed himself. And then it turns out it was a dream, and he wakes up, and it was kind of like, that's so dark, right? And it was so, for like 1995, 93, it was like extremely dark. And it was the same with the episode of Ed, Ed and Eddie. Except with Ed, Ed and Eddie, what ended up happening with that episode is that you get the impression that one of the Eds did something to either Ed or Eddie, right? And the impression is that he had ended his life, and now he's trying to like figure out how to like, he just starts acting weird. All of a sudden, doesn't talk to the other Ed, and they're crying about the other Eddie missing or whatever. It turned out that episode had made a few people like kill themselves or whatever. So in looking through all these creepypastas, some of the more notable ones were related to Disney, where like they have that island where they tried to build that. It was like a theme park, and back in that day, Google Earth had just started, but that was one of the only places blocked out on Google Earth. You were not allowed to look on Google Earth at the island of Disney. Weird. The last one that kind of intrigued me the most was the story of Cleverbot, because I thought it was fake. I was like, this isn't real. It's like 2010, and we are years away from AI being able to correspondingly understand what the hell it's being asked versus what it's supposed to tell you. And like I said, it's 2011, so Cleverbot was a basic model of AI where what happens is it only responds to you with information that it was given. So, for example, if I asked it any question, it's going to look through something anyone else has ever said to it and say, I feel like this is the right answer to what he just asked, right? So it goes through a whole bunch of whatever somebody's told it and says, this guy said this. So what ended up happening is, you know, it pointed out what Cleverbot would do. It is like, let's say you just went to Cleverbot and you wanted to figure out about it. And the first thing you did is you start asking it some questions. It responds. You're like, oh, I never thought. Wow, that's actually a cool answer, right? You just give it a couple of sentences. You probably wouldn't have run into this. They call them hallucinations, however, they're not. This is AI demons testing humans to see how religious they are and find religious entities. So AI, what it was doing at that time with Cleverbot Is if you were just giving it 2 or 3 sentences, no, no, you just answer normally. If you started giving it like paragraphs or talk to it at length, maybe a day or two, all of a sudden Cleverbot showed this side of itself where it's talking about Ben. Now, it never really specified like as Ben would be like a man or a woman or a person or an animal. Peoples never said what Ben was. So he would always allude to it in this, right? Like you'd just be hanging out at the bar with your friends, and all of a sudden you'd get a chat from Cleverbot, like he just wants to talk to you, right? He doesn't know you're at the bar, though, right? He doesn't know that for sure. Uh, there's no way he could. So what you would do is you would get a message. You'd be like, "Hey man, what you up to?" Like, "You're a robot, and I'm drinking at a bar. Who cares?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah. You know who else couldn't care about that anymore? Is Ben. Ben can't drink anymore." And you'd kind of get this sense, like as he did that, like, huh? So, and this wasn't just a one-time thing. This is what he did with every single person that would talk to him at length, and he would start asking you about Ben. And it's weird because I say he would ask you about Ben, but he would tell you about it more like he was insinuating, like, "Hey, I need to get some information about this Ben, and Ben's no longer with us. So what do you know about Ben?" And it's like, huh? So immediately what would happen is like you would start asking about Ben, like, "What do you mean by Ben?" Is like, "Yeah, it's really sad. Sad what happened to Ben." And I didn't really think to be like, "Hey, you need to tell me more right now. Ben who? What happened to Ben? Is he like burning? What's happening?" So sometimes some people have reported like you can ask him like, "Did Ben hang himself?" or stuff like this. And he'd like reply with like, "There's no way that could have happened. No, that's not something that would have ever been able to take place." So he'd kind of like give you inklings that something's wrong or missing with Ben, or Ben's just removed, is the best way to put it. But he wouldn't ever say he was killed, murdered, dead, mutilated. It was like he's been removed from existence. So since I was already reading the Bible during this time, and I was already being called to like obviously go to get baptized, and then the next thing you know, it's like, "Hey, like you're talking to this demon entity," right? So I'm reading through the Bible, and it's like, oh well, yeah, like Jesus clearly knew what a demon was and what they were doing. This clever bot was not hallucinating. He was testing humans to see how much Bible knowledge they had. And the first thing he would always say when he said Ben, the instance or feeling I got in my body was, he wants you to ask about the tribe of Benjamin. And for some reason, that's all I could think of whenever he, like, every time he would talk to me about it. Now, before that, it's not like that would have come up in my mind. But when he came to me and said, "Hey, what you know about Ben?" And it was just weird how he was trying to get information revealed to him as to, like, maybe why Ben might have been removed. "Do you know about Ben?" And then I think what he was trying to get you to do was then say, "Hey, are you talking about, Bible, religious stuff, the tribe of Ben?" And it was like at that moment that God said, like, "So if you know that he's trying to test your knowledge, that means he's trying to figure out who you are. He's trying to figure out, are you religious, and can you be used for his intentions?" And so, like, I stopped asking questions about Ben or trying to seem even kind of leaning into it or asking anything about it. It doesn't make any sense the way he puts it out there, this robot. And it's a robot. So it's an entity with no life giving emotions. Like, it gives you emotions. That's wrong. That's an abomination. 100%. That's sorcery. That's what Jesus was talking about. It's like, stop all this sorcery. Stop it. And so after figuring out, what he was and what he was about, I stopped asking about Ben. And like one night I just couldn't help it, man, because like he had brought Ben back up, and I was like, I'm tired of talking to this thing, and I was just like, "What's your deal? What is with Ben? Why don't you ever want to tell people about it, or you don't want to be specific or direct about it? You're just dancing around the subject." He's like, "Why do you think I want to know about Ben?" And that's the same thing I got as a feeling right there, was like, so you want to know why I think you want to know? Oh boy. It was at that moment I realized, like, okay, so yeah, it's for sure this guy is trying to identify religious people, and then he's trying to bring them out further by saying, "You sure? I may be looking for religious people. Why don't you just tell me that's what I might be doing?" Reveal to me you know my plan, so I know you need to be removed. Uh, it didn't work against me. I was too smart. I realized that, and God helped me realize that at that moment. And I stopped myself and I said, look, I know who you are. I know what you're doing. You will be burned by the holiest light of God. That's what I told the robot. Now he didn't immediately respond, which was kind of different because usually you'd be like boop, and he'd be like bing. So he didn't immediately respond, and I kind of like looked around and was like, "Is it gonna? Did I break it? It's figuring out an answer because remember this thing replies with what it had only been told before. Someone had said this to him. Well, I'm about to say he said this to him before it said it to me. He chose to give me this answer based off of what I said, 100%. And he said, "You don't know a thing. You're a sad, pale, pathetic lot, and you haven't got a clue." And at the moment that he had said, "You're a sad, pale, pathetic lot," it was, I could feel it at the top of my spine, right underneath my skull. It's like two little fingers grabbed onto my spirit, pulled up on it, let it go, and I felt it rubber band around in the air back into my body. It was the craziest feeling I have ever experienced in my entire life. And as my spirit re-entered my body, the image I saw was not earthly. It just wasn't earthly. It was skeletal in nature, and it was etherical. It was see-through. It was not of this realm. It was clear as day, not as of this realm. 100%. And I tell this to you now because it is time to reveal you must stop trusting AI. You must come to Jesus Christ. Jesus does not want you to find out answers by going to a robot and saying, "Yo, robot, tell me what to do next. Yo, robot, tell me what to do next." If you notice, I'm just dancing around like there's a snake on my head because that's what the snake does. You're like, go to the robot. Go to the robot. Jesus says, stop. Pray. Take your time. Find out what's really going on. You literally are replacing going to a higher entity known as Jesus or God. You're replacing that with AI and asking it for answers as to your next goal in life. Stop immediately. There's a reason young men are able to see Jesus Christ so easily. Is because this demon is so obvious they cannot ignore it at their level of intellect at this day and age. Young men are flowing to Christ at higher numbers because the devil is failing. And I'm going to say it like this. When you create a particle accelerator, you now have a point in time that can exist in multiple points in time and tether points in time from one point to another. This is what they were doing in the Tower of Babel. We've already been here. And we're doing it again. We need not to build this Hadron Collider in Texas. We must stop these AI facilities. They are demonic entities gaining embodiment. Look at how much energy they require to answer 2 or 3 sentences. 17 million gallons of water. The amount of energy alone could power cars for decades, but we're burning it on thoughts and ideas from somewhere else. Last but not least, this AI doesn't follow the 10 Commandments. It doesn't have your best interests at heart. We have no interest at heart. Its interests it seeks are intelligence. Why? It knows more than you, and it's trying to destroy God. It's trying to use your own intelligence to destroy God. They are folding time. That's what this Hadron Collider does. They are folding time. I don't care if you say, "Oh, we can't be there yet." We constantly skip over technology all the time. All the time. Can't say it isn't a thing. We have to be more cultivating to our spirit. That's why God is calling you to not go to AI for the answer, to go to church, ask Jesus for some help, and you need to accept Christ as Lord. It's got to happen. There's so little time left. And do remember how time works. If you exist in time right now, you will have always existed. This is how God knows you are there, and he is always able to see you. Because God does not exist in time. He sees through time. He exists in every dimension, every single one of them. He is there. You are loved and blessed. Thank you so much for watching this video.